CNBC TV18 and Bandhan Bank present Sashakt India, powering the MSME engine.
Hello and welcome to Sashakt India, powering Indian MSMEs. This is a special thought leadership forum promoted by CNBC TV18 along with Bandhan Bank to highlight the challenges and opportunities before the MSME sector and recognize its role in the Indian economy. To inaugurate this series, we have with us Mr. Rajiv Kumar, the Vice Chairman of NITI Aayog, who both as economist and as a NITI head has the best perspective on what needs to be done and what has been done for MSMEs. We also have with us Mr. Sashakt Ghosh, Managing Director and CEO of Bandhan Bank, which is by far the only universal bank that started as a microfinance company, which makes Mr. Ghosh perhaps one of the best experts, hands-on experts on the MSME sector. Well, he bets on it with his money, so he should know. Mr. Kumar, Mr. Ghosh, welcome to this special show. Mr. Kumar, let me start with some numbers. The MSME sector, according to the MSME Ministry, contributes over 30% to India's GDP as of FY17 and 48% to India's exports. It employs a massive 11 crore people, according to the last survey of the NSS. So can we start this conversation, Mr. Kumar, by you telling us how does NITI see the MSME sector's role in the Indian economic growth story over the next few years?
Quite explicitly, and I will say it, and there is no ambiguity about it, that NITI Aayog and the Government of India sees the MSME sector as the very backbone of our economy. And this is a backbone which, with the number that you've given, is reflected in those numbers, plus also in the fact that in the last economic census, we had something like 60 million business units, of which a very large number would be a part of the MSME sector. I think what is not brought out sufficiently by these numbers is the sort of employment that you mentioned, 110 million. But the fact is that that's probably the direct employment. But the MSMEs, their spillover, their backward and forward linkages, etc. A much larger number of our population is perhaps dependent on it. The only sort of caveat that I would want to make is that we in the government now believe that MSME sector should not consist of those who will remain dwarfs perpetually. We see MSME as a transient sector, as a sector which will get units which are eager to and which are capable of and which are supported by the government to become larger and then leave this sector and get on with becoming, get on with achieving global scales and global competitiveness. I think that's the crucial difference between how we see the MSME sector and perhaps how it was seen in the past.
Oh yes, that makes a big difference. That gives it a vision to be sure that it's not going to be a child all the time. It's going to become an adult. But Mr. Kumar, let me get Mr. Ghosh into this conversation exactly at this point. While this is an important development, Mr. Ghosh, that you have to nurture the MSME to be a mid-sized company and a large-sized company in course of time. At the moment, there is a survival issue because of this sudden pandemic that has hit us. Quite a few steps have been announced in terms of this 3 lakh crore, which is a complete credit guarantee, plus this 20% first loss which is being borne, and even the redefinition of the MSME sector. Do you think this is enough? Do you think we are not going to see mortality of a very high order in the MSME sector? What are your thoughts?
It's a very good initiative taken and very quick taken the decision government and the Bank of India to support on this, not only this, the 3 lakh crores for practically MSME. You see that there is a CBT MSME also have given that some of the money in there. And the TLRTU offered by the RBI, that is also partly going to this MSME on that. So I hope that the three options, whatever the initiative taken by the government and our regulator, I hope that the very good support and moral support is given to the MSME, which they will be not morally deserted and not lost the business, and they will be start newly, or they will be start a small way and recover on this situation on that. I hope that this is a very big support on that.
Okay. Well, I want to ask this question to both of you. Mr. Ghosh, do you think a further help is needed? Because while the 3 lakh crore credit guarantee and the first loss and the TLTRO give additional debt, it is still additional debt. Do you think something is needed in terms of forgiving the existing debt, a subvention scheme or some help from the government in terms of reducing the current debt load?
I feel that it will be time will be say that when the lockdown opened, if the lockdown opened within a month, I hope that that is the good enough whatever given on that. If the lockdown again it will be the continue another couple of months, then again it will be rethink about it, what support can be needed on that.
I take your point. How quickly we open up will determine not just survival but strength of all sectors, MSME included. But what are your thoughts, Mr. Kumar? Do you think the existing load on the MSME sector needs to be trimmed in some fashion?
Well, I mean, the latest figures are that by the end of July, out of that 3 lakh crore, 1.37 lakh crore of loan had been sanctioned, and a fairly big amount, 90,000 crore, had already been disbursed. So there is therefore an appetite within the sector for more debt, for more working capital debt, to be able to expand capacities, to be able to modernize themselves, or just to tide over. Now, whether or not, and the answer to your question is actually lies in a better segmentation of this huge sector. Which is that what I would think is that perhaps the micro industries, which are very small, which are also like proprietary or partnership concerned, mostly proprietary, which have faced now, a liquidity crunch, which has made them insolvent, and therefore they might need in some sort of a financial input, which is not in the form of debt but in form of grants. But the problem there is that the identification of this category of micro enterprises is extremely difficult. So I think what we need to do is therefore to start thinking very quickly of something like a Bandhan Bank model in India, which will be run with, because it's the last mile delivery to these people, which is a real impediment and a real hurdle. So what you have to do is to perhaps, this is just an example, connect with the 62 lakh self-help groups in the country, or other forms of social organizations which will be able to take you to these micro enterprises, and then identify not just the financial needs of them, but maybe also they need some help on marketing, or some other help like technology, all of that. But I think the point that I'm trying to make is that it is at the moment a very important task to get more data, more granular data on this sector, which is quite wrongly taken as a monolith. It's far from that. There are layers and layers and layers of different types of enterprises, going by their size and the industry and the sector that they're involved in. So I think one of the bigger tasks that we have in front of us is to be able to better understand the contours of this sector before we start talking about the sort of help that they might need over and above what the government has already done.
You gentlemen are putting a lot of points on the table, which I hope I can develop well. Mr. Ghosh is speaking about how unlock will create growth opportunities. Growth is the best palliative, is what he seems to be telling us. And as you point out, we need more granular knowledge about MSMEs to be able to help them. Okay, gentlemen, please hold on. Now, we have to take a quick commercial break, but I have lots more questions for the two of you on how the MSME sector can be welded into the India growth story. We are back in a minute.
CNBC TV18 and Bandhan Bank present Sashakt India, powering the MSME engine. CNBC TV18 and Bandhan Bank present Sashakt India, powering the MSME engine.
Welcome back to our special series, Sashakt India, powering the MSME. We have been speaking with Mr. Chandrasekhar Ghosh of Bandhan Bank and Rajiv Kumar, the Vice Chair of NITI Aayog. Mr. Ghosh, what is your sense about financial inclusion? Institutions like Bandhan have done a great job in terms of financial inclusion. But do you think large parts of India are still financially excluded as far as MSMEs are concerned?
I have been agree with Mr. Rajiv Kumar already mentioned about it on that. The large number of population are living in a rural India, and which is till now is the financially excluded people in a rural. And if we see that we have the household, and 26 crore household, 50% household bottom side. If we like to cover by the financial institution for financial inclusion, so Indian economy will be like to better way on that. So I am giving another example on that. There is a couple of three types of MSME in our country. One type of MSME which is very linked with the big industry. Another kind of MSME who are not any link on that. There are also some of the MSME that is called it is in foreign linked, in the export linked, and third one who are in a small, but they are not registered in any way, so that are missing. And fourth one, which we are working, if we see that the microcredit, I have the 1 crore 15 lakhs borrower. 50% of borrower, that means that 60 lakhs of the borrower are eligible to convert as the MSME, micro, small, medium enterprise.
Okay.
But this is the promotional role also to build up the small ticket size of micro level of the microcredit level of the customers. Those who have the good enterprise, how they can be like to easily to transform as a MSME. MSME means MSME micro, and then go to the medium and go to the SME. So that is one of the pipeline we can be maintained, and good support is needed from the government on specific small support on that.
Like how? I mean, that is exactly what Mr. Kumar is also stating, Mr. Ghosh, that they need many-sided support, technology support maybe, marketing support maybe. What is your suggestion then? Since you have actually hands-on experience with, as you say, 60 lakh micro units, how can you reach technology and marketing to that level?
So there is 70% of the people are running this enterprise in the rural India. And rural India, there is two infrastructure should be like to better, so marketing will be like to better. One is a road, and second is the electricity. So when the road and electricity will go, then connectivity automatically also go. So there are e-marketing also, they can be easily accessed on that. This is the one side. I am giving the very simple one side on that, which is the practical problem. If I like to change my Aadhaar card address, I can go to the website and I can do it. If I like to make one PAN card, I can apply and do it. But if I am converted as an MSME, I like to make one of the trade license, I cannot do it. So it is not that easy. So how the government will be helped on that? The website based the trade license can be get by access by the large number of people. So people should not be like to spend the 6 months time and some money
trying to figure out.
Get one trade license. Until the trade license will not get, they will not be treated as MSME. They are not getting as registered, and their data also not coming to that much of the system. So they are missing many of the things.
I take your point, sir. You know, only a person like you who has seen several levels of rural India can speak like this. That ultimately what you need is just overall electricity and digitization of the entire country, and then simplicity of doing business, as you say, apps which the far-flung units can easily access. Point taken. But I guess that's what NITI is doing, right? I mean, the electrification of the entire country has been one of the projects of the Modi government, and that was achieved in the previous term itself. But the other point that Mr. Ghosh is touching, Mr. Kumar, is that they are largely rural. Is that the heart of the planning policy at NITI? That, rather than look at only urban India, to concentrate heavily on rural enterprises?
Yes, of course. I mean, the rural development, rural connectivity, eliminating the dualism between urban and rural is all part of this government's agenda. And I think one of the keys, you've seen the growth in the rural roads that has happened, and also the connecting of the villages, with electricity. But I think one of the major parts here is that of, a speedier completion of the BharatNet program, which is to bring the fiber to all the Gram Panchayats, and then from there, take the next step, which is, I think, called the wind technology, to connect all the, all the villages for digital connectivity, because I think that's going to be the key going forward. Now here, I think one of the suggestions that we have been looking at is how to bring digital technology to be able to give collateral-free loans to MSMEs, and to the micro units, because I think they already now significant experience within the country. I know of companies, there's a Bangalore-based company started by two young Stanford graduates, which are giving loans within 20 minutes, and they already have more than 1 lakh of customers and about 5,000 crore of an asset book, based on the track record of the deposits that they make in their banks, or of the receipts that they do. So they don't need the collateral. So making available collateral-free loans up to a limit, not a very big limit, I think will be a huge step forward in what you said, the ease of doing business for the small and micro. Lata, the access to credit, not so much even the rate, because when they don't have access to formal credit, these units are borrowing at 2% per month from the traditional sources. So I think this use of digital technology, the use of digital information, and all the sort of how do you say it, all the sort of information-based checks and balances that you can make, I think will be a key for me getting this sector moving forward and becoming far more dynamic. One other thing, which is that in our country, the relationship between the MSMEs and the larger corporations, to whom they are vendors, has to be improved. And there, I think maybe it is time to get the larger corporations, companies, to get enlisted on trades. Because I think that's where, in Japan, the larger corporations, or in Korea, larger corporations nurture their vendors and the tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers. In our country, they are put through a 8 weeks, 6 weeks credit cycle, etc. So I think the other good move forward would be to put the companies on threads, so that the working capital requirement of these units is reduced. Collateral-free loans with the use of digital technology and better payment facilities and ease of getting the receivables from to whom they have supplied, I think are two other key steps that are required for these units to become more dynamic and contribute to the GDP.
Okay. Actually, I was going to ask that as an ask, and you have said it on your own, that probably, bringing large companies into trades. Otherwise, the large companies often make their vendors, hold their capital for them, use them for easy funding. So I take your point entirely, but most of the public sector units are already on treads, Mr. Kumar?
Yes, they are. They are.
Okay.
But that's just a small fraction
Yeah.
of the total industrial value added. And I think it's time that the private sector companies also think very seriously of voluntarily getting onto the treads, because I think that will infuse a whole lot of confidence in the smaller suppliers and vendors.
Okay. Well, actually, Mr. Ghosh, the Reserve Bank has been in a listening and a giving mode lately. They have put startups under priority sector. So, hopefully that also will mean a lot of more loans can be given under the priority sector window. As well, lately they have decreased the LTV for gold loans for the banking sector. And, at a time like this, you will see a lot of people wanting to take credit by giving gold as collateral. You think these two are good steps? And is there any ask you have, anything that you want done so that, an individual becomes an entrepreneur and a micro-entrepreneur becomes a small businessman? What would you want from RBI or government?
No, it is a good initiative and good help on that. But the first is a need on that the consumer demand will be like to increase first. When the consumer demand increase and those are running the business in the small or medium type of enterprise, and their businesses depend on local supply chain, and that will be like to flow, credit flow will become automatically good. And if you see that today is every month I have the 5 lakhs, the people are close their loan.
Okay.
But 50% people are not taking loan.
Okay.
Because they say that we can wait just to see that the demand will become, then we'll be like to take the loan. So that is also like take some time on that. When the lockdown open, their demand will be increased. Consumer behavior is a little bit different now. When the behavioral will be, they are only opening on that which are essential goods they are purchasing. For that reason, but when this initiative has taken by Reserve Bank and government, that have been help the confidence also to the entrepreneurs. They say that the money will be not the problem.
No, actually, absolutely. Spoken like a person who knows the sector best. Growth is the best answer to all problems, ultimately. So if growth is there, then the micro enterprise may not even need any of the crutches from government or from RBI or from the banking sector. Thank you very much for kicking off this series in such a high note.
CNBC TV18 and Bandhan Bank present Sashakt India, powering the MSME engine.